Hey guys, Helen Hartsmith here again from the Heart of the Witch's Path YouTube channel. Hope you're having a great day. I've had better days. I actually have a killer headache today, but I really wanted to film this video. So hang in there with me. This one might be a little bit of a short one, but I really wanted to share this video that I have with you guys. So I have my cup of peppermint tea. It's so good. And I have my headache balm on. So hopefully soon this headache will be a thing of the past. We'll see. Anyhow, what I wanted to talk about today is goals and setting goals for yourself. I was looking back at my history of videos that I've done here on the channel, and I see that I did a video a couple of years ago about goals. And so I thought that I would share with you some of my experiences with setting goals for myself, and maybe it will help you if you're finding that you're a bit at loose ends with things, just to kind of give you a little background on myself, for those of you who might be new to the channel or haven't really heard anything about like my personal history or anything like that. I am an Aries, and I am very much a typical Aries. I can be very much fly by the seat of my pants, and that I found that when it came to organizing my life and organizing my witchy studies, that was kind of a detriment in some ways. In other ways, it was great because Aries are natural leaders and they're extremely creative. And so that's great. But sometimes, we can be a little too spontaneous, let's say. So there was a time in my life when I didn't use a planner, and I found myself literally scheduling 2 or 3 things that big things that I needed to accomplish, events that I needed to be at on the same day. And so I thought, I really need to start carrying a planner and start using it, because I don't remember everything that I said that I would do. And there's always a lot of things in our lives that can kind of get lost in the shuffle, if you're not remembering to write things down and stuff. So I started doing a planner, oh gosh, probably about 10 years ago. And oh my gosh, that like really helped my organization as far as myself and my schedule. And then when I started doing the YouTube channel and the blog, it really helped me to kind of see, when I was posting things. I was able to set up a schedule for myself and say, I want to do this on this day, this on this day. And so as far as my spiritual practices, there were daily things or weekly schedules that I wanted to set up for myself. And by having that place where everything was located, it helped me to better manage my time. It also helped me in witchy studies, because if there was a long-term witchy project that I was working on, say I was working on a long-term spell, or if I were doing research into a particular pantheon or a particular stone, then sometimes I would forget to do the research or do, the next step in that long-term spell work. And then before you know it, time has passed and you haven't accomplished what you wanted to. So I found that, setting some time aside for myself really helped me to manage my time a little bit better, especially when it came to my witchy studies. So that kind of brings me to talking about goals. A few years ago, I'm going to say it's only been like maybe 4-5 years at the most that I started doing a list of goals for myself for the year. And I want to say that it was actually an assignment for probably my temple studies. I don't really remember. But I started making a goal list, and I would usually keep the goal list in my journal that I was writing in for the year, or perhaps in my planner that I was using for the year. Somewhere that it was handy that I could get to it all year long, so I could either mark off things that I had accomplished or see what I wanted to accomplish and see, get a gauge for where I was at in covering the ground that I wanted to cover. And so I found that by setting myself up with a list of goals, that it gave me something tangible that I could go back and look on. And it's so incredibly satisfying to be able to check something off of your list. And so in terms of what's on my goal list for the most part, generally it's kind of a mix of both mundane things and magical or witchy things. And so I feel like my life isn't just about my spiritual path. It's not just about whatever I want to accomplish in my mundane life. I feel like everything really just kind of mixes together. And so everything in my life has all of those little flavors in it and makes for a richer life, I think. So, another thing that I wanted to talk about, I heard someone speaking once, and they were talking about having a theme for the year. Okay. And I thought that that was really interesting. So a theme being like a word or an idea that they worked towards, whether that be as a single individual person or whether that be like a married couple or a family or something along those lines. And I thought that was really kind of interesting. And I started incorporating that into my goal list too, was to have either a word or a theme that I worked towards during that particular year. And so last year I usually would do like a meditation or think about like what should this next year. And these are things that I do kind of at the tail end of the previous year. So in November and December, I really kind of start thinking about what do I want that theme to be for the following year. And I also really start reviewing my goal list and see where I'm at with things. Am I hitting my goals? Am I not hitting my goals? Have I missed marking something off that happened? Things like that. So it's my tail end of the year activities. I start thinking and looking about those things. So last year, I had a word that I was working towards, and that was restart. Kind of refreshing. Refreshing a lot of things in my life. And I feel like 2020, and I don't want to keep harping on this kind of idea because I really want to leave it in 2020. 2020 is done, and I don't want to harp on the things that were not accomplished or lost or didn't happen, what have you. But 2020 was a pretty challenging year for all of us. And I know that in 2021, we're still not out of the woods yet. And so I feel like there were a lot of goals on my list that I wasn't able to check off. And you kind of have to be okay with that. And my theme for the year was restart. And I'm not sure that I really restarted a great deal, but maybe the restart was, surviving the 2020 and coming out on the other side and restarting in 2021. sometimes interpreting our life experiences, it's not always apparent in that moment what lessons you're meant to take out of an experience or a period of time or what have you. And so I'm not gonna dwell too much on it. Maybe it'll come to me, in another month, in another 5 years, something along those lines. But, that still doesn't stop me from having those things that I work towards, basically. Okay. So, coming back to my goals and not accomplishing a great many of them, I'm very pleased with what I was able to accomplish in 2020. And I'm very proud of myself for the things that I was able to accomplish. And that kind of leads me into saying, if a goal list or some kind of work like this is something that you're interested in putting some magical intention into, the biggest thing that I would stress to you is to be gentle with yourself when it comes to evaluating your goals and what you've accomplished. It does you really not much good to beat yourself up if you didn't accomplish everything on your goals list, because you know what? There's always next year. In general, time is definitely finite, but you experienced that time, and I feel like it doesn't really do my own self-worth much good to beat myself up because I didn't accomplish all my goals. I accomplished some of them, and I accomplished some big ones, and so that's enough. That's enough. And I ended up rolling a lot of things onto my goal list for 2021. It's just kind of how the dice roll, and you gotta be okay with that. You gotta roll with the punches, so to speak. Okay. So I thought I would share with you I have a theme for this year. And I'm pretty excited about it. And I thought I would share with you some of my magical goals that I hope to accomplish this year. Sound good? So the theme that I'm working on this year is really experiencing the turning of the wheel. Really experiencing and appreciating the wheel of the year, the cycles. Okay. As a Wiccan, I believe in the wheel of the year. I celebrate our Sabbats, and I believe that there are things that happen throughout the course of the year that are connected with the story of the goddess and the god. And so I live in a state that has all 4 seasons. I live in Michigan, and as I get older, I don't appreciate winter as much as I may have as a child or what have you. And I had a realization that, well, it was a realization through a class, a workshop that I sat through in Temple Fest last year, that talked about how the dark half of the year is just as important as the light half. And there's value to be had in what happens during that dark part of the year. And that really just kind of hit me as I'm doing myself a disservice by looking at winter and wishing it wouldn't arrive and can't wait for it to be spring. Don't want snow, don't want this, don't want those, single digit temperatures or negative temperatures or all that snow. And I realized that for me, I accomplish things during that dark part of the year that I don't really have time for at other times of the year. So there is value. And so I'm actually taking the Wheel of the Year course through the Temple of Witchcraft this year. And so I really want to experience and appreciate the Wheel of the Year. And so that's my big theme. And that's what I hope to learn from this year. So I have my goal list that's on my beautiful Illa and Alice printable paper. I looked it up and I felt so terrible. I have to apologize to Lisa for not remembering her company's name. There was a link in that last video, but Illa and Alice is Lisa's company, and I hope her Etsy shop. And I'll go ahead and put another link in this video. Go check out her beautiful beautiful paper printables that she creates. But there's my goal list on the beautiful paper. So, whatever. So here's some of the magical goals that I'm looking forward to accomplishing this year. I've heard a couple of witchy folks here on YouTube talk about something that I hadn't really, I had a need for it, but hadn't put a name to it. And as soon as they did videos about it, I'm like, you shut up. That's brilliant. And I want one of my own. And that's a witchy car kit. So this is just something that you, a kit that you put together, a little box, a little bag, whatever serves you well. And it's things that you keep in your car for, say, you come across a plant that you want to wildcraft, or you come across maybe some animal bones that you want to collect, or maybe you have a need for some grave dirt. And so you have this box, bag, whatever, of things that you keep in your car for those types of situations. Say you need to do an emergency cleansing. Well, good thing I got some salt in my trunk. So that's something that I really want to put together this year and start using. So I have a list started of what I want to put in my witchy car kit. So if you have one and you have some good suggestions, I'd love to hear them in the comments, okay? I'm really upping my reading list for this year, the number of books that I want to read this year. Reading books was something that's been on all of my goals, and I started low, not wanting to put too much pressure on myself, and I try to give myself a little bit more every year. Last year, my goal was 24 books, and I made it kind of by the skin of my teeth, but that's okay. And I've upped myself to 30 books this year, and I really want to stress reading some of my Wicca library, my witchy books that I haven't read yet. I would really like to stress getting through some of those. So be on the lookout for some book reviews. I know that I've got some that I need to film, because the last book that I finished was The Poetic Edda by Jackson Crawford, translated by Jackson Crawford. So I have yet to film my review for that book, so look for more of those here on the channel. I really want to, so last year, tail end of last year, I did a lot of work on my grimoire. I call it my book of light. Some folks might call it a book of shadows. It is huge. I'm not going to pull it out because I really need two hands. But do you see this right here in the background? That is my current book of light, and that doesn't even have my correspondence lists in it. I need to separate that out. I'm thinking about maybe breaking out my spells and having them in a separate volume from my other information. So I worked on that quite a bit last year, and this year I want to work on a personal book of living and the dead. And what I want to accomplish with that kind of a book is a book honoring ancestors that have passed, whether that be your milk or your blood ancestors, or your milk ancestors, which are adopted family, ancestors that have passed on, like the mighty dead or some elders within the craft, as well as people that are still living that I honor, whether that be an aunt and uncle that have been incredibly supportive of me, or my favorite authors, things along those lines. Just a way for me to kind of have a focal point for remembering those that have influenced my life. And so I'm hoping to create something like that. So if you're interested in my journey through that, then let me know, and maybe that's a video that I can do in the future as I work on it, okay? And if you're interested in me going through, I know I've done at least one video talking about my Book of Light, but if you'd like an updated one, then let me know and I can share with you some of the information that I put in that, okay? I also want to, there's a special crafty witchy project that I want to work on, and that's called a Sabbath wreath. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a video about that. So look for that in the DIY section of the channel as we kind of work our way, or as I get up to that. Let's see. My eyes keep falling back onto one item, and it's not something that I'm ready to share yet, so I'm trying to move on. One thing that I also want to work on that will be the last thing that I kind of talk about, I don't want this video to run super long, but through my lessons of working with Keepers of the Hearth, which is my coven that Kathy and I co-started or co-founded together is Mystics of Realure, and we happen to be under the umbrella of another tradition organization that's called Keepers of the Hearth, and we took classes through Keepers of the Hearth. And one thing that they stress is that through their 3-year degree program, you choose a stone, a method of divination, a plant, a pantheon, and I think that, I always think that there's more, but I think it's that 4. You pick those things and you work with them for a turning of the wheel. And I love that, and that is actually an idea that Kathy and I took from Keepers of the Hearth, and we introduced it to our own students. And so in recent years, I've kind of neglected that kind of work. And so I want to, since I'm observing the wheel of the year and the cycles this year, I want to get back on that kind of that year of research. And so I did some searching, a little bit of lithomancy in some cases, and I'm looking forward to working with amethyst this year. I'm looking forward to working with the Oregon grape and Oregon grape root this year as my plant. I'm interested in learning more about the Mayan pantheon this year, and the type of divination that I'm going to be working with is one that I read about in a book by Doreen Valiente, and I think I mentioned it in the Top 10 Elders video that Kathy and I did, and that I posted earlier. It was the first video of 2021. It is a stone divination that I'm going to be working with and seeing how that works. So I'm looking forward to that. So if you're interested in more of that, more information on that, it's probably not going to be something that I'm going to be ready to share until, you know, the tail end of the year, because this is really, there's no manual to this. This is all about intuitiveness and listening with your psychic ears, and really kind of it's going to be a timely process for me. But if you're interested in how it works out, I'd be happy to share how it is, but look for that at the end of the year, at the earliest. So yeah, so goals I have found for my sometimes frantic Aries mind can be incredibly useful, especially on my path and especially with my magic. And so I hope that me kind of talking about my experiences maybe inspires you. We're just starting in this year, so it's never too late to set up your own goal list and start working towards things, setting some sights for yourself. I hope that you maybe learned something from this or liked it. So if you did, please give the video a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. I love to have you come back to the channel. I've got some really cool ideas for videos that I would like to make for you guys this year. And that will involve Kathy and I hopefully getting together more than we were able to in 2020. So look forward to seeing Kathy in videos too. There will be links in the description box for all kinds of social media. If you have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the comments, or you can email me at heartofthewitchespath@yahoo.com. And I want to know what kind of goals you have set for yourself if you're someone who does something like that. And how do you feel how do you do in accomplishing your goals? I'd like to hear about your experiences with that. So please do so in the comments section. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for continuing to support the channel and coming back and watching videos. That's going to be it for today. Thank you for walking the path for a little while with me. Until next time, blessed be.